Joe here. Thanks for visiting Road Trip Joe, and thank you for being my patron. Before we start this next video, I want to say special thanks to Barry and Bonnie for buying me the newest Sibley Birds West bird book. And I identified my first bird, the band-tailed pigeon. It's a big sucker, sits out here on their patio sometimes and eats all their bird seed. Thanks, Barry and Bonnie. That was nice. So it's official now. I am a birder with my binoculars. In this video, we're going to talk about a place I visited this last winter, and I spent a couple of weeks there. I decided to go to the hottest place on Earth. Growing up, I was a big fan of TV westerns. Bonanza, The Rifleman, The Big Valley. I even watched Gunsmoke. All of them. I watched them all. One western I remember that ran for a long time was Death Valley Days. Although I don't remember many of the characters, I discovered it ran on TV from 1952 until 1970. That's 18 years. And it was a radio talk show before that in the 1930s and 1940s. Ronald Reagan was the host one time for the TV show in 1964 and 1965, and it was his last work as an actor. He appeared in 8 episodes, and it was sponsored by the 20 Mule Team. Borax, of course. Altogether, there were 452 TV episodes over the years. And believe it or not, most of the show was filmed in, well, Death Valley. And besides the TV show, several films have been made there. Escape from Fort Bravo, Star Wars, Zabriskie Point, just to name a few. And you two, of course, had to visit Death Valley. It was when they had long hair and no grandkids. So, of course, I had to go there, and I have to say it turned out way different from what I thought. Death Valley is one of this nation's most beautiful parks. Death Valley is situated on the southeastern side of California between Yosemite National Park and the Mojave Desert, and it's the largest national park outside of Alaska. It's big, real big, and it's not all desert. It has snow-covered mountains, sand dunes, and salt flats all covered by a big blue sky. To me, it's one of the most colorful and exciting of all our national parks with lots to see and plenty to do. There are even resorts in Death Valley and a golf course, if you can believe that. When people think about Death Valley, 2 things usually come to mind. Heat, of course, and the fact that it has the lowest point in the northern hemisphere at 282 feet below sea level. But it's really all about the heat. Death Valley still holds the record for the highest one-day temperature ever recorded at 134 degrees Fahrenheit, and it happened on July the 10th, 1913. That's pretty hot. What you might not know is that the park size is over 3,000 square miles, and it's just 84 miles from the highest point in the lower 48 states, Mount Whitney in California. Death Valley was declared a national monument in 1933 and a national park in 1994. I went to Death Valley in the wintertime, and since I like to hike, decided to take the Death Valley Challenge. To get a sticker, of course. So I picked out a few places on the map, and for the next 2 weeks, did lots of hiking. I started out easy with the 20 Mule Train hike. The 20 Mule Train hike is where the old boron site was. Boron is, well, a very complicated chemical that is produced entirely by cosmic ray spallation and supernovae. Trust me, it's complicated. But its main use back then was to make borax, which is a detergent. So Death Valley is where they would mine boron for the borax product. From 1883 to 1907, they would mine this boron, process it in Death Valley, and then load it up on these huge wagons. The wagons were being pulled, of course, by the famous 20 Mule Team. These mules would haul this stuff 150 miles or so down to the Mojave Desert to catch a train. The site still has some of the process machinery, and the wagon, of course, with 7-foot high wheels, which is quite impressive. My next stop was the lowest point in North America, Badwater. Badwater was 20 miles or so south of where I was staying, and the drive allowed me to see much of the valley. Badwater used to be a large body of water called Lake Manly. Lake Manly was 100 miles long and 600 foot deep at one time. but that was 12,000 years ago. The water evaporated over time, which left the salts that form these really cool shapes on the ground. From a distance, it looks like snow. Badwater holds the record for the hottest surface temperature ever taken when it hit 201 degrees on July 15, 1972. During the summer of 2001, it had 154 consecutive days of 100 degrees or more. The summer of 1996 had 40 days of 120 degrees or more also. That's hot. Badwater also had 3 years of no recorded rain. That was in 1929, 1953, and 1989. That's right, no rain. From 1931 to 1934, it only had 0.64 inches of rain. On average, Death Valley has an average of 2.36 inches of rain a year, and snow has only been recorded there once in 1922. But Death Valley is not entirely dead, far from it. The valley has wildflowers, bighorn sheep, red-tailed hawks, and wild burros. It also has 600 springs and ponds that support pupfish, believe it or not. And in certain times of the year, Death Valley actually has a waterfall. When it rains, Darwin Falls on the western edge of the park falls 100 feet into a large pond. Over 80 species of birds have been spotted in Death Valley, but it can be harsh there. Just ask the 13 pioneers who perished from one of the early expeditions of wagon trains. Gold and silver has been mined over the years, but that didn't last too long because after the initial strikes, the mines played out. And all of the mining and prospecting has left plenty of boarded up mines around the mountains. I visited one of those mines on a hike I took, and we'll cover that probably in another video. Of course, I was there when it was 70 degrees, so the weather was perfect. I wouldn't go there in the summer, although that's when they say it's most crowded. It was pretty sparse when I was there, which was nice. A bartender at one of the resorts said the summer is when all of the European tourists come to see it. So don't be a tourist and go in the summer. Go in the winter or in the spring when the desert blooms. Regardless, go to Death Valley National Park. It's quite spectacular. And maybe you'll run into some interesting folks, just like this lady from Alaska. Joe here. I'm out here in the middle of Death Valley with all these people here, and I ran across this little raft.
Yeah,
and what's your name?
I'm Debbie, and I'm from Alaska, and I have 3 rafts with me. Brought one out here to get pictures because we're in the lowest part of the United States right now, and I just had to bring this pack raft out here to get some pictures and to paddle.
She dragged it out here about, I don't know, a mile away.
Yeah, this one here is the mule, so this one weighs 8.5 pounds.
8.5 pounds.
Yeah, so just fun.
Oh my goodness! But you've taken it out on the water.
Yes,
it's seaworthy.
Totally.
Okay.
People are using these all over the world. You can find them on YouTube, on their websites.
Yeah.
And so they're just one of the best. I actually guide kayaking in Southeast Alaska, and everybody has to buy a pack raft. They think they're awesome.
And what's the name of it?
Alpaca.
Alpaca.
Yeah, pack rafts.
There you go. And where can you get them?
You can go through their website in Colorado. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll have more to come from Death Valley in the future. It's just too much for one video. Did I show you my Take the Death Valley Challenge sticker? I love stickers. That's all I got. Road Trip Joe here. I have come back out to the Borax site where they used to, the 20 mule train took all this down the Mojave Desert. Today, going for a little bike ride. It was a couple of miles down the road to get here, but it was a nice path. And when I get done, I'm going to go down that path right there, which they said the road was closed, but you know, it's flat. It's flat. It's just absolutely gorgeous out here. But the big event of the day was, if I can find it, this. I went in and I got my decal for my hiking yesterday. That was fun. I'm gonna ride my bike right out there somewhere. I'm not sure where. I don't want to go too far. I'm still relearning how to ride bikes. But so far it's been just a great trip. That's all I got.